do that now. Now, if you're wondering which area of my business is holding me back, well, the Business Growth Quiz will tell you that. So you go to businessgrowthquiz.me, businessgrowthquiz.me, and get the free report after you do the questionnaire to help you to identify which area of your business should be focusing on now in order to create more wealth and create more income for yourself. So on this particular show, I have Therese Nicklas with me. And before I bring Therese up, she is a wealth coach and helps people to manage, well, women specifically, to deal with their mindset, thoughts, and money and issues around money, and also create financial freedom, passive income, all the great stuff we talk about here. So Therese, welcome to the Business and Wealth Show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Excellent. And thank you for coming in all the way from Boston, Massachusetts. Now, I want to say this, you're Amazon bestseller as well, Overcoming Mediocrity, Limitless Women. When did that book come out then?
Last year.
Last year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it's a great book. So, Therese, let's do this. What was your entrepreneurial journey? What got you to do what you are doing now? What was the journey like?
Well, the journey has been a series of lessons. And some of those lessons have been very challenging. But the rewards of pushing through it cannot even be measured. So for me, Mac, my journey began by accident. I literally fell into it. So I had been an employee in the financial services space for 20 some odd years.
Right.
And a colleague of mine introduced me to financial planning, and he suggested that I pursue that, which was kind of a offset of what I had already been doing. And I said, I don't even know what that is. How do I go about doing that? That seems ridiculous. I pushed back for like a year. Then finally he convinced me, told me, what the path was. So I went down that road. Now, I was thinking all along that he was hiring me.
All right.
And after I received my certification and everything else, I was like, okay, now what's the next step? He said, what do you mean the next step? You have to go out and find clients. You're on your own.
We know that one.
Yep. So that was a big eye opener. And so I just started my business, shaking hands and kissing babies, and one client at a time. And 22 years later, here I am.
Wow, 22 years later. So you did your qualification, and then they threw you out there to go and find clients. What was that like in the early days of no clients? I've got to get clients. I've got to get paid. I've got to.
Terrifying. Was it was absolutely terrifying. I had one son in college.
Okay.
Another son going to a parochial high school. So not having employment, not having income was really not an option for me. And I was just completely dumbfounded that this was the position that I was in. But somehow or other, I made it work, and I evolved. So I went from asset management, which is the typical path that people in my industry go on, to really looking at financial planning. And then from financial planning, I did a lot of soul searching and a lot of studying around like what really works. And what I learned was that handing somebody a financial plan is not the answer. It's not even the beginning. What it is like, okay, we're gathering information. We've got this, 100-page document that nobody ever reads. I said, this is really a waste of time, and it's a waste of the client's time. So that's when I created the wealth coaching process. And that process probably took me about 5 years to really develop it to what it is today. So what I did, Mac, was I combined life coaching, which is where we really take a deep dive into what is your purpose, what is your mission, your vision, your values. How do we help you create that big, bold life of your dreams? And then we put financial planning on top of it so that you not only have a vision for your dreams, but you know what they're going to cost you.
Oh, wow. That's very novel. That's a great way of doing it. So you're marrying coaching with the actual hard facts and numbers in terms of the financial structure and planning. That's awesome.
Right.
Tell me, even with all of that, one of the things you talk about is if you want financial freedom, it starts with having clarity.
Right.
What do you mean?
Clarity is the first step to financial freedom.
Clarity in what specifically?
Clarity in what financial freedom means to you. Because what it's going to mean for you, Mac, and what it's going to mean for me and anyone else is going to be different. Right. That's to be expected. Where people get really tripped up, and I see this all the time with clients, is that they use somebody else's model of financial freedom and not their own. And then they get frustrated and they never feel satisfied, because it's like if I was trying to put on your suit, it's not going to fit me.
No.
So you have to find what fits for you. So I use a lot of analogies and just examples from my own life and family. So my grandmother, my father's mother, and my father, they were born in Sicily. And Sicily, I actually just returned from Sicily. So I got to see firsthand where my ancestors lived and the abject poverty that they experienced. I heard about it in stories, but it was really a humbling experience for me to literally walk in their footsteps.
Wow.
And my grandmother wanted to come to America because she knew that if she stayed where she was, she and anyone that came after her, her children, her grandchildren, etc., would only know poverty. And when I went there just, a couple of weeks ago, and here it is 100 years later, nothing's changed there.
Wow.
And I said, her stories were so true. I mean, she sugarcoated it, literally. I mean, when I saw how bad it was, I said, she didn't even scratch the surface when she would describe the situation. But I think that was all very intentional, because her mindset was, A, she had nowhere to go but up. Right. And B, she could do it. She had so much confidence in herself. And this was, a very blue collar person. My grandfather, my grandmother, they weren't doctors. They weren't professionals.
Right.
They worked very hard, and just knowing how to manage the resources that they had and having an abundance mindset and also a gratitude mindset, I really believe that was her path to success.
Two things you just said there, which is so critical, I think a lot of people don't understand, is having that abundant mindset and being grateful for what you have today. Mm-hmm. You have now, you can build upon.
Right.
A lot of people, maybe you've met them as well, talk about, I want this and I want this, I want that. And they don't realize they're in a good position already.
Right. Exactly.
And, so talk a bit more about that. Why is gratitude so important to having more and more and more of what you desire in the future?
Well, I think it boils down to one word, and that's happiness. I think at the end of the day, Mac, what we all really truly want is to be happy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we wrap that happiness in the new car, in the vacation or the big house or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But those are items. They're not making you happy. The happiness comes from inside. And that's where the abundance mindset and the gratitude, that feeling of gratitude, is a happy feeling. So when you feel happy, you have this appreciation. More of it just shows up in your life. It's like opening a big spigot to abundance. You cannot feel abundant and ungrateful at the same time.
Yeah, I love that.
It's impossible. You cannot feel that. If you feel ungrateful, you're not feeling abundant. If you're feeling ungrateful, you're not happy. And you show up that way. I mean, people, we all do, that are just miserable. And do you want to do business with someone who's miserable? Do you want to embrace their friendship? Do you even want that energy around you? You don't. You repel it. And they're repelling all the things that could be good in their life. It's like the old Dickens movie, with Scrooge, right? When he was miserable, what happened? He had so much, and all he did was make himself and everyone around him miserable. When he had the vision and changed his whole mindset, realizing how much he had and just wanting to share it, his whole life changed. And I know that's a fictional character, but it really isn't, in a way, because we all know people like that.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. Let's talk about financial freedom. Do you have like 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps for someone to follow, to say, hey, this is how you create financial freedom. And do you want to jump ahead with that?
Sure, we can certainly jump into that. And financial freedom is not a number. That's step number one. You have to understand that financial freedom is not a number. Financial freedom is what makes you happy inside. And that first step is appreciation, gratitude.
Right.
The second step is understanding exactly what it is that you do need and what you need to do to create that. So appreciation, gratitude, there's a number of ways you can do that. Now, you can write a gratitude journal every day, write down like 3 or 4 things that you're grateful for, or 10 things, whatever number you want to go with. And then you demonstrate that gratitude in abundance by giving some of your money away. Charity. When you have a charity or a cause that's important to you, that becomes part of your why you want to get out of bed in the morning. Like you want to benefit that organization or cause, or however you want to put it. And by doing that, it's like more comes to you the more you give away. So in the example of my grandmother, she, even though these were people, if you looked up the definition of dirt poor, you would have seen their picture.
Right.
She always had money for charity. Always. That was part of her budget. That so much went to, whether it was church or an organization. She had a particular pet charity that was back during the war. It took care of orphan children from Italy. So she gave to that organization all the time. It was even in her will when she passed that she wanted a certain amount of money to go to that organization. So I think, I shouldn't say I think, I believe that having that mindset, that generosity, became like reciprocation towards her, because anything that she ever wanted in life, she got.
Wow, it's a good outlook, good way to live. And obviously, it seems like your grandmother was a great role model for you.
She was a great mentor, and she was not somebody who would say like, Max, sit down, I'm going to teach you about money. It was all taught through her stories and through her example. And it was just done with a lot of love. And, when I think of like even the way that she would frame a story of how she lived in Sicily, which she called the older country, she would put it out there like, at one point, this is how life was for me, but now look at how life is for me.
Amazing.
It was like you'd see like, oh, look at what I get to do. Look at what I have. Look at how I get to enjoy my children, my grandchildren, in my home and feed them. And, these were the things that were important to her that she got to do that she knew she wouldn't have gotten to do if she stayed where she was.
And that's the abundance thinking that you was talking about. And
exactly. Right.
I think we got to, you said gratitude and appreciation. You said know what you want. Was there some other steps, or those are the 2 critical ones?
Those are the first 2 critical ones. And I think that the abundance and the gratitude are probably 2 of the most important things. And having that mindset, if you find that you're a person who is woe is me, or you tend to complain a lot, you really need to shift that conversation. Because what you say becomes your reality. So if you're always saying things like I'm broke or I don't have enough, that becomes your reality. When you demonstrate the gratitude of what you actually do have, then that becomes your reality and you get more of that. So I think that if you do nothing else but those 2 things, you will be successful. And then, of course, it's just basic money skills like not spending more than you earn, always putting a certain amount of money aside for a rainy day, having the emergency fund, those pragmatic steps that you need to take, not living paycheck to paycheck. Because if you tell yourself I live paycheck to paycheck, that's your reality.
That's what you tell me something. What are some good money management habits and some very poor money management, non-management, if you like, poor money management habits, especially when people are driving towards that financial freedom that they're looking for? What helps them? What gets in the way?
The thing that would get in the way is if you're living above your means. So know exactly what you are bringing home. So a lot of times when I, start my interview process with the client and I ask them what they earn, many cases they don't even know.
Oh, wow.
And if they'll give me a number and it might be their gross income, but that's not what they take home. So, I asked them, well, what does your paycheck look like? They don't even look at their paycheck. So having like no clue of what's going on is an anti-money management activity.
Right.
So to have money management, number one, be very cognizant of what you're bringing home, what your net monthly, I measure everything monthly because most of our bills are monthly. So what is your average net monthly income?
Mm-hmm.
What's that number? Let's say it's $10,000. We'll just use a number. Now we look at what is your average net monthly expenses, and fixed expenses are easy, like your rent, maybe certain utility bills that might be on a fixed budget. Those kind of things are relatively easy, but where people get tripped up is they forget how much are they spending on like takeout food.
Right.
How much are they spending on, how often do they go to the ATM and withdraw money from the bank, and what are they doing with that money? How much is going on credit cards? Like those kinds of things that they forget about work against them. So being mindful of where your money is going is a critical step towards financial freedom, because what gets measured gets improved, and what gets improved gets accounted for.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Therese, why is money such an emotional topic for a lot of people, especially, I suppose, when it comes to relationships, maybe?
Well, I think that the reason it's so volatile is because everyone grows up in a different circumstance in the household. So if you and your spouse or partner, let's say you grew up in a household where your family was very open, talking about money, talking about, how you're supposed, maybe teaching you lessons like you should be taking, say, 10% of your income and putting it in savings, those kinds of things. And if you are comfortable with those conversations, that's great. But if the person that you are now in a relationship with grew up in a completely different environment where maybe money was volatile, maybe their parents got divorced because of money, now you two are trying to form a household together and there's conflict right away. So you're probably trying to teach them, the benefit of having open conversations about money, but they have so much resistance that now you have the conflict.
Right.
So money is an energy.
Uh-huh.
And it's also a tool. So when you think of energy, you think of something that you can't see. When you think of a tool, you think of something that you can see. Like you think of a hammer, right? That's a tool. When you think of energy, you think of, stuff that's in the air. So when you try to bring this one thing together that has these two very strong components, it's like a thunderstorm.
Right. Got it. There are some people who believe, Therese, and you would have come across them, I'm sure. Often they don't want to take responsibility for managing their money or looking after
Mm-hmm.
they are in times in such a mess. At the same time, what I find is that they will use language like, well, money isn't everything. Money isn't as important as love. Um, And I'm thinking, well, love is important and money is important, but it seems like they don't want to take responsibility. Anything
Exactly.
about that?
Well, how we perceive is how we achieve, and how we achieve is how we receive.
Oh, I love
So
that.
if your perception is that money is evil,
Mm-hmm.
or it's not important, if you're telling yourself money is not important, guess what? You're not going to have any.
Yes.
So how you perceive is how you achieve. You're going to achieve no money because you're telling the universe it's not important.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people thinking of wealthy people like they're bad or they're evil or whatever. But money can't buy you happiness, but poverty won't buy you anything.
On the other side of the coin, definitely. Yes. Yeah, I love that. So
So
yeah, go
it's
on.
important to just be responsible, accept the fact that money is a tool that is in your life. Whether you have enough or you don't, it's still a tool in your life, one way or the other. And knowing how to use that tool is going to make the difference between how you feel in a lot of areas of your life.
Beautiful.
Because if you don't work it correctly, it's going to create a great deal of stress. So just like, if you have an automobile, if you don't keep that automobile in optimum shape, you don't keep it tuned up, you don't have gas in the engine, you go to jump in the car and go from point A to point B, you're not going to get very far if you don't have gas in the engine. Money is a tool, and you're going to think of it that way, that you've got to put the gas in the engine to get this tool to work for you.
Thank you for that, Therese. Do you have an example of maybe one of the people you've worked with, one of your clients, and where they had a very bad money management thinking or habits or beliefs, and working with you, they managed to turn that around? They're in a different situation now. Do you have an example of that?
I do. I have many, but I'll give you the first one that pops into my mind. This is a young woman who got divorced when her daughter was 2 years old. The husband decided he did not want to be father and husband anymore and hit the road, leaving her with this 2-year-old. So that not only traumatized her, for obvious reasons, but it also traumatized her finances. And she developed the mindset of that she just gave up. It's like, no matter what I do, nothing works. No matter how hard I work, I can't get ahead. She had this huge burden hanging over her shoulders because of, this situation.
Yeah.
And as a result, she was building up a lot of bad debt, a lot of credit card debt, just really developed some really poor habits. She was, using takeout food instead of cooking, doing a lot of things that were really working against her. And her sister introduced her to me. So her sister brought her in and said, I really would like you to help her. She needs your help, and I will hire you to help her, because she knew her sister didn't have the money. So we started working together and going through her mindset issues. We discovered that she had a lot of blocks around self-worth. And when her husband walked out on her, that just triggered so many things in her that was like, yep, see, I knew I wasn't worthy. He just proved it. He walked out on me. So that, kind of set off the snowball of negative behavior. So we reverse engineer all of that. She was had a good career, but she was significantly underpaid. And a lot of that was self-worth issues. So we worked together on that. I kept encouraging her to get another job, a better paying job. And she said to me, I would rather walk down the street naked than go out and look for a job.
Really? Oh, no.
Because the idea of rejection was just, she was just too sensitive to rejection. So what we did was, and this isn't my specialty, but a lot of it is just kind of basic common sense. I said, let's role play and let's pretend I'm the interviewer. And I'm going to give you a list of 10 questions, and I want you to, we'll work on the answers and we're going to practice. So we did that, and we kept doing this over and over again. And then she was building up her confidence. I said, now we're going to go look for a job. And in her field, I knew she would have no trouble finding a job because she happened to be in a field where there's not enough of them. I went online. I showed her a website. I said, look at this website. There's 37 openings in your field. I'm sure one of them has your name on it. Well, long story short, she got a new job. That new job doubled her gross income.
Oh, wow.
That's how far off she was. And I knew that from the first time I met her. I said, everyone I know that's in your field, where I work with a lot of women, so you see a lot of people in the same fields, said, you've got 20 plus years experience in your field. You're making like what an entry-level person would be making. Ridiculous.
And all because she had a set of beliefs that I am not good enough.
Exactly.
And they're gonna reject me again like my husband did. And great work there. Great work, Therese, in terms of changing that belief in order for her to actually earn a lot more and earn value. So it's a great example you're given there. How does one go about changing that money mindset then?
It starts with the decision. It starts with recognizing that you need to change. That's usually a really big stumbling block, because it's like admitting you made a mistake. And a lot of people, don't want to admit that. But once you can accept that and admit that you need help in this area, you need to change this area, And one thing I say to my clients over and over again, if it's been done before, it's not impossible. So if you've ever met anyone who is wealthy or who is successful or who overcame adversity, overcame some sort of a challenge, then that means it's not impossible, even if it's one person.
Right.
It can be done. And you just have to be the next person to do it. And the way that you do it is A, you make the decision that you're going to change. And then B, you rewrite the script that itty bitty committee is reading to you in your head. And you may need help with that. You might need a coach or someone to rewrite it for you, and then you just keep reciting it. So in the same way that I worked with my client on giving her a list of questions that could be on an interview and practicing what you would say in that interview and building up that muscle, you have to build up that money mindset muscle.
Got it. You're listening to the Business and Wealth Show with Therese Nicklas, and we are talking about financial management, money management, mindset around money. We're talking about creating financial freedom. So remember to like, remember to follow, remember to subscribe, depending on which channel you're on, so that we can bring you more expert interviews just like Therese here. Therese, for those who want to get in contact with you or follow up with you, and because maybe they want to learn from you, what's the best way to stay in contact or find you?
Well, I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, a little bit on Instagram. I'm just really getting started with Instagram. But the best place to find me is at my website, which is wealthcoachforwomen.net. And I provided links to you for that. And if they want to set up a free call with me, I have a true wealth conversation that they are able to schedule for 30 minutes. They can pick my brain, ask me anything, and see if whatever it is that they need is something that I can offer. And if it is, we'll talk about what those next steps would look like.
Superb. So if you're looking for financial freedom, if you're looking for mental clarity around money, if you're looking for better money management habits, if you're looking at maybe increasing your income, if you don't feel validated, you don't feel good enough around money, if you have any emotional blocks around money, reach out to Therese, as I just said. So wealthcoachforwomen.net. Is that right?
That's correct.
Superb. So on that note, I'm going to give you the last words in a moment. And is there anything that you would have liked to say, or maybe I should have asked, I haven't asked, but very important and that the audience here get to hear about as well?
Well, I think we did cover a lot, but I really believe that every person is not only entitled, but I believe it's your birthright to experience true wealth. And true wealth is the things that money can't buy and death won't take away.
Great and beautifully put. I love that. Thank you, Therese. Therese, it's been a pleasure speaking with you here. Thank you for all that information. Thank you for these golden nuggets. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Being a light in the world. So thank you for jumping onto this call with us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
You're most welcome. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you for listening. You are listening again to the Business and Wealth show. And remember to make comments here. What did you learn? What did you pick up? What would you ask Therese? Put it all in here in the chat box as well. Thank you. Until we speak again. Bye for now.